Hi guys, I'm Logan Cheater. I'm going to be talking to you guys today about ADHD, the Axis 1 disorder, also known as attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, and how it relates to being a male college student. First of all, if you guys don't know about ADHD, it is a disorder that causes you to have bouts of inattentiveness, or at times in the name, hyperactivity, which is just the inability to control yourself or your actions at any given time. Big part of this disorder, is symptoms-wise, you can be diagnosed as one type, which is just inattentive, which requires you to have 6 or more of these symptoms for children up to the age of 16, or 5 or more for adolescents 17 and older, and these symptoms have to be present for at least 6 months. First one often fails to give close attention to details or makes careless mistakes in schoolwork, at work, or with other activities. Often has trouble holding attention on tasks or play activities. Often does not seem to listen when spoken to directly. Often does not follow through on instructions and fails to finish schoolwork, chores, or duties in the workplace. For example, lose focus, they get sidetracked real easy, they forget what they're doing and go off and do other things and then completely forget about what they were doing in the first place. Often has trouble organizing tasks and activities. Often avoids, dislikes, or is reluctant to do tasks that require mental effort over a long period of time, such as schoolwork or homework. Often loses things necessary for tasks and activities, school materials, pencils, books, tools, wallets, keys, etc., etc. Is often easily distracted and is often forgetful in daily activities. For the hyperactive and impulsivity side, which is a completely different type where you can just have the hyperactive type of ADHD. It's the same thing. You have to have 6 or more of the symptoms of hyperactivity and impulsivity for children up to age 16, 5 or more for adolescents 17 and older, and they have to have been present for at least 6 months to an extent that is disruptive and inappropriate for the person's developmental level. First of all, there's often fidgets with or taps hands or feet or squirms in seat. Often leaves seat in situations when remaining seated is expected, often runs about or climbs in situations where it's not appropriate. Adolescents or adults may be limited to feeling restless. Often unable to play or take part in leisure activities quietly. Is often on the go, acting as if driven by a motor. Often talks excessively. Often blurts out an answer before a question has been completed, or even when hands are expected to be raised, they just blurt it out without thinking about raising their hand. They don't have the control to do that. It just kind of comes out. Often has trouble waiting his or her turn. Back to that raising your hand example. Often interrupts or intrudes on others, e.g. butts into conversations or games. In addition to those symptoms, the following conditions have to be met too. Several inattentive or hyperactive impulsive symptoms were present before the age of 12. Several symptoms are present in 2 or more settings. For example, at home, school or work, with friends or relatives, and other activities. There has to be those symptoms present in 2 or more settings, not just at one. There's clear evidence that the symptoms interfere with or reduce the quality of social, school, or work functioning, so it has to severely impair your ability to function in one of these major areas of life. The symptoms do not happen only during the course of schizophrenia or other psychotic disorders. The symptoms are not better explained by another mental disorder, for example, mood disorder, anxiety disorder, dissociative disorder, or personality disorder. So, after that, some causes that have been found to be part of ADHD. First of all, I want to lead with there is no single cause of ADHD. There's nothing that for sure that's what causes ADHD. There's been correlations found to low birth weight in premature children. It can come from genetics. So somebody who's had a parent who's had ADHD in their life beforehand has been found to be more likely to have a child who also suffers from the same disorder and has the inability to pay attention at times or really control their own actions. And then there's also another cause, which is upbringing at a young age, specifically with some type of adversity. A lot of children, they find that during adversity, they find ways to keep themselves entertained at times, and then eventually, after a while, that just becomes a normal part of their daily routine, and then people look at it as if it's not a normal thing to do. They start doing that things where places where it's not appropriate, say school, for some reason they start working or something like that. Those things find their way into their personal life, and they become hindrances more than they do escapes from their real life. The way this kind of comes back and can really relate to being a college-aged male. Specifically, I have suffered from ADHD in my life as well, and a lot of the symptoms that it talks about for inattentive and hyperactive, I have suffered from, and really what it affects is academic performance, for one. Getting great grades in high school to having not so great grades in college was really affected because I didn't have the ability to sit down, pay attention to a college lecture, and that is found a lot in college-age students who have ADHD. They have the ability to control the hyperactive part by this age, but now at this point in time, it's just very hard for them to focus, sit down, be zoned in on one thing for a period of time without having other things fill their attention as well. Some treatments for this. With using medicine, other than just trying to teach somebody how to really control themselves and make sure, and just sit down with them and tell them when something is appropriate or not, and really just make sure and reinforce that. There are medicines, being Ritalin, Adderall, Strattera. Strattera being a non-stimulant, which is kind of abnormal for ADHD, because normally ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, you want to be stimulated. You want to have that ability to stimulate yourself or have something help stimulate yourself to keep yourself attentive. So that's more of a kind of on the border one that most people don't really look at anymore, especially psychologists and doctors. But Ritalin and Adderall are some of the most highly available ADHD medication that basically helps stimulate your brain, keep you stimulated longer so you can help focus on stuff during school, personal activities, work, other things like that. It just kind of helps you make it through everyday activities. Like I said, there's no real one specific cause for ADHD. There's no trackable really rates. It's just kind of something that happens. There hasn't been found to be a correlation between one gender or sex or anything along those lines. It's just a case-by-case basis, honestly. And like I said, some of these effects, they can affect your grades, they can affect your personal life, your social life. People might think you're weird just because you are so hyperactive, and there are times that you can't control yourself, so then you come across as just this uncontrollable, weird person who does stupid stuff, and at times that detracts people. So there are sometimes with people with ADHD who lose friends, have a small social circle, don't have a social circle at all, and find themselves kind of alone. Their grades begin to suffer because they're alone, and they also can't focus during class, among other things. It truly does become a hindrance when you can't focus, you can't control your actions at times. It does start to push people away, put you in the doghouse with some teachers. You can't focus on your homework, so then you don't get it done on time, and then you can't turn it in late, anything like that. Your grades suffer. School all around becomes just difficult. Having a social life, there's times at work you get inattentive and you can't figure out what you're doing at that specific time and go, well, I'm going to go do this now, and forget that you were actually doing something completely different that needs to get done. Your boss gets mad at you because you didn't get something done on time. You're doing something completely different. Eventually, if that keeps going on, you end up losing your job. It just, at times, it can truly affect many other parts of your life. But overall, as ADHD is a total disorder, that's all I have for you guys today, especially as it pertains to college-age males. You could go on for hours about this, but I do have a slight time limit. But there are many different causes and effects that aren't just, oh, he can't pay attention or anything like that, so it's difficult. It does affect many different parts of your lives. But thank you for listening to me today. I appreciate your time.